Hey, sports fans, it's Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. The program is socialing the distance, and we're with Olli Hoare. He is an Australian runner, now running for the OAC and being coached by Dathan Ritzenhein. Olli, you're also a Badger, so yes, go Badgers. Okay?
Go Badgers. Yes,
yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I want to talk about your NCAA outdoor title for a second. Were you surprised when you won your first one, or did Mick have you pretty pumped up and everything, or kind of how? Take us through that a little bit. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so that season was definitely a breakout season for me at the outdoor. Mick Byrne, the optimist that he is and the realist that he is, fundamentally believed that I was going to win that title. Even at some points, I didn't think I was going to be up to that level. There was a great amount of talent in that field for the 1500 meters that year. Mm-hmm. Josh Kerr just broke the NCAA record. People were running very, very fast, 3:36 shape people. That was almost close to the world standard. So to have that in a collegiate system was a very daunting thing. But the training that we went through, every kind of process that we had from cross country all the way to outdoors kind of led us to that goal of winning that title. If you've ever watched the race on YouTube, it's quite an interesting race because I'm also kind of in it, but not really, with a lap to go, about 8th or 9th. And then I just slowly make my way through and be able to finish off with a good kick to take away the title. And I think in the race, I definitely felt very confident that I could come out with a win. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, like a lot of people, you don't really know until you've done it. So when I crossed the line, I was kind of didn't know what to do. So I was ecstatic, and to be able to win Mick Byrne's first individual title in his career as a coach for the NCAA, and to win, I think, the first 1500 meter title for the Badgers for about 50 years was an absolute honor. Yeah, it was an absolute honor. So it was an ecstatic experience, and it definitely led me to greater and better things throughout my collegiate career from there.
So tell us about Mick Byrne. I met him in 2011 at a airport on the way back from Daegu, and we started chatting a little bit. And I liked him from the first minute I talked to him. He just seems like a coach's coach. And the athletes that I have talked to that have been with him just love him. What was it about your relationship with Mick that was good for you?
Well, Mick's coached some amazing, talented athletes. And I think for me, Mick and I have a very special relationship. We still do. One of the main reasons I went to the University of Wisconsin with the options that I had coming out of Australia was because of Mick. Mm-hmm. He radiated this kind of energy that I definitely desperately needed as a runner. For me, running was much more of a lifestyle than just a sport, and I needed to be able to know how to live the lifestyle if I wanted to succeed to the goals that I had, which were very, very high. And Mick definitely was a life coach. Morgan McDonald says the exact same thing. Sure. He's a mentor. He's great fun as an Australian with an Irishman. A lot of banter going on, a lot of fun things coming out of Mick Byrne's mouth during workouts, during tough, there'd be a tough 8-mile run. It'd be a tempo, it'd be hot, we'd be running very fast miles. And Mick Byrne would come out of his nice car and say, "There's many ways to skin a cat, so let's get going." And we just do these workouts, and he'd have all these weird sayings. But as a coach, he was very personalized. He very came up to athletes and knew what type of athlete they were. I think from his history at Iona, he had a lot of dealings with international student athletes too, which I think was a huge benefit for me and for Morgan. And for obviously, guys, greats like Mohamed have benefited from Mick's coaching and wisdom. And I think for him, he was a big reason to why I was able to get to the level I was in college. And we had massive goals and massive potential going into the senior year season before COVID struck down the sport around the world. And unfortunately, we didn't get able to fulfill those goals. But a lot of my racing since then, a lot of that training has been just a mixture of Mick and then the transition to Dathan Ritzenhein. So having two greats like that in my transition, it definitely showed that I'm in great hands, and I still keep in touch with Mick, and we have good chat and good banter. And he's definitely a guy that I'm definitely going to have in my corner, and hopefully he'll have me in his corner for any future references. But he was an amazing coach. To be under him was a privilege, and or to be a badger was an absolute privilege as well. So Morgan and I can't speak highly of him, but he's a lot of fun. He's too much fun sometimes.
I got to, so I would come down I'd trek in from Fort Atkinson to watch your cross country races. I love the course, and it was really fun. Was the winner of 19 to watch everything, and it was just a blast. It is such a feeling at Wisconsin and an enthusiasm, and that's what I liked about watching you guys. What was your running like in Australia as you got into it? How did you get into running?
It's funny. I grew up as a swimmer.
Wow.
Mostly, I'm from a coastal beach town in Sydney called Cronulla, and my parents and my family are avid surfers, beach goers, swimmers. My mum's quite good at swimming. My brother was a national caliber swimmer, and I kind of followed that path until I was about 16. And it was interesting because my dad ran for most of his life, but didn't really push me into that kind of avenue. We did cross country as a cross training for swimming. And then that's when I fell into my love for running and also my talent for it too. And we went to a different high school called Trinity Grammar, where my talent developed on the track. And I kept my swimming up, but probably until I left college, I stopped swimming and fully pursued my running to see where I could go with it. And then from there on, I ran some great races in Australia, came over to Wisconsin, and then obviously my Wisconsin career, I was able to come away with a very successful badger career under Mick, and I just fell in love with the sport. And then I realized as a person, I wanted to become a professional runner. I wanted to represent my country at the Olympic Games. And then it was this full-blown kind of invested, but it didn't really start until I was about 16, where I really started to get my hands dirty in the track and field scene. So it was a late start, but definitely from my background with sport, I still had fitness there. I still had a kind of an idea, but definitely a lot to learn as a late starter. But it was awesome because I went to the right place and was able to kind of learn a lot from my experiences.
What was your major in college?
I majored in economics.
Oh, cool.
So just graduated in May.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are you going to go to graduate school? Are you thinking of grad school?
It's definitely a factor right now. Obviously, being in Boulder, Colorado, where the group is based, I'd be going to the University of Colorado, which is another cool university.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that I'd have to discuss probably into 2021 if I want to pursue that, or if right now I should just focus on my running and see where that takes me. And then if things start to slow down, I can apply. But it's definitely an option there, and I'm definitely looking into it. But I'm just glad to be able to get a degree out of the lovely UW-Madison, and it was a pretty cool experience. Unfortunately, didn't get to the whole home, the big ceremonial finish. But when my degree came in the mail, it was an exciting experience for my family, and it was just cool to have that big W in front of it. So
sure,
that was an awesome thing. Yeah.
So you've had a short racing season, but before we do that, how did you meet Dathan, and how did you make the decision to join OAC?
It's an interesting tale because I think for me, when everything shut down and UW wasn't going to give me a spot back next year because I did have a full year of eligibility on this track side left, Mick kind of said, "Look, you got to go. Let's get this going. You're ready." So I was in talks with a few people. I signed with an agent, with Ray Flynn, and On Running popped up, and I didn't really know of the brand much before. Andrew Weeding, who was an Oregon Duck, great runner for the United States, called me and had chat about it and what On Running was about and what they wanted to do, their ambitious goals. And then Steve DeCoca came in and had this idea of bringing him and Andy had this idea of bringing this group. And when it was all getting formed and things were starting to look very appetizing, they told me about Dathan. Now, as an Australian, I didn't know much about a lot of American runners, but I knew his name. So I went on to as you do, you Google. I went on to
Yeah.
Google Dathan, and I was gobsmacked at his high school, his collegiate career, and his internet. 3-time Olympian, 207 marathon runner, 5K American record holder. It's kind of hard to not look at that resume and get kind of scared of who this guy was and what he was capable of doing. And I heard he's been coaching in Grand Rapids, Michigan, a little bit with a few athletes. So I got on a phone call with him, and straight away we clicked it off. We got on very well, and Dathan's such an energetic guy, so excited about stuff. And I know the one thing with Dathan that is similar to a lot of people that I look up to in that kind of professional setting is that when he has his mind set on a goal, he doesn't move out of the way. He goes straight for it. Any obstacle that gets in the way, he'll find adversity to get through it. And he was one guy that I was curious about getting coached, because as a middle distance runner, I kind of said to him, so obviously you've had a great talented career, but how would you coach a 1500 meter guy who wants to run, low 330s, wants to make Olympic teams and this? And he went through, some of the experiences he's had with Matthew Stenchowitz. He's gone through a lot of guys that he's seen through his times with Oregon and with the Oregon project. And, that gave me a bit of confidence. And then obviously there's how committed is he going to be to the group? And he was committed as all of us, because he moved his whole family out from Grand Rapids, Michigan to Boulder, Colorado. So when he showed me that commitment, I thought, well, this coach definitely wants to invest in me and my future. And regardless if I'm an American or Australian, he wants to coach me and to get me through to where my goals are as a professional runner. So when I heard he was on that position, I kind of went, it doesn't really get much better than that, especially with the situation's going on with COVID, with a lot of businesses, a lot of companies not opening up to many athletes, aspiring athletes coming out. Seeing his name there and seeing the other 3 lads, their names printed on that sheet, I just thought, it's not going to get much better than this. I'm in a great opportunity, and it was no doubts, no questions, and I was just excited to get to start working with him.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a pretty special guy, and it's just having watched him kind of evolve through the Olympic competitions, but also from a track guy to, I think his best distance was the half marathon. And he put a few of those together that were pretty impressive. And then his marathon, it was a learning thing, but he also was with 3 or 4 of the finest coaches in the sport, and he's learned a lot. He's got his own thing going too. So I think it'll be a lot of fun for you guys. So I'm very happy for you. You had some nice racing over the short season. You got a PB at the mile, 3:53, and then you followed that up with a 3:34.65. Did that 1500 surprise you?
I think it was a long time coming. I think it was something that Mick and I had been working on very well in college. I think Mick, watching me train and seeing the workouts I was doing, he's like, you're going to pop off. There's going to be a race where you're going to take off. And, if that's in the NCAA season, it's going to be an insane race, and we're going to set it up for you. And this is going to happen. But obviously with COVID hitting, that obviously was put on hold. And Dathan had seen my training, my progression in Boulder, and he knew that I was in great shape. But he knew that, unfortunately, without me going to Europe, the opportunities to have people in front of me with the shape that I was in is kind of low. So I was excited. I didn't know where I was going to be, but to run a 3:34 like that, first official race out in the new kit, and to run an Olympic standard like that was incredible, and it was exciting. And Dathan and I knew we were in a great spot, and to do that on to Tennessee record, to do it on Tennessee soil was also very cool. So we were in a great spot. Unfortunately, obviously, without being able to get around to Europe and to any diamond leagues with COVID and with the restrictions there, that was tough. But to make our own opportunities in the States and to race with what races we can in the short season, it was fantastic to be able to give those results out. And obviously, when a group opens up, a new group like this, we want to put out results. We want to be seen as legit. And I think establishing that first race was very important to us, and we were able to fulfill it.
What was your early pace like in that race?
We were able to get a pacer through 800 in, I think, 1:54.
Okay.
And then the pacer dropped off, and then I took the lead from there and tried to press as much as I could, and finished off with a 3:34. So Dathan definitely thought I had a lot more in me and a couple of seconds down. A lot of my teammates have said the same, but it was fantastic either way to get a result like that and a race like that after, as a lot of people have been waiting for so long to be able to get the opportunity. So we were very, very fortunate and excited about being able to open the group up like that.
What did your agent, Ray Flynn, say?
Ray was quite funny because Ray's obviously an absolute legend in his own right with the middle distance and the mile as an Irishman. Him watching my race, he was excited for me. And then when I came down after the race, he hit me in the arm and he said, "You should be in Europe running 3:31." So to get a compliment like him from that, like he thought that I was in shape to break the Australian record. I mean, obviously you can't say things like that unless they actually happen. That's one of my fortes, but I definitely felt like I was in top shape and I could have broken out on that European scene. But having Ray as an experienced agent say that to me after the race definitely gave me confidence that I'm in the right spot. I'm with the right coach. I'm with the right support staff behind me. And it's just an exciting place to be, to look forward to the future.
You ran 13:28 also the next weekend for 5,000 meters. And pretty big PB for you.
Yes. I never run a 5K outdoor in college, except for Big Tens where we did points. For indoors, I would run the 3K, 5K double. Sure. And that's where my 5K time came from. So it was kind of cool to see that drop down quite a bit. I know my teammate Joe Klecker and I were hoping for a faster race, better conditions, but at the end of the day, like he and I said the same thing. Opportunity to race is just so valuable right now, and every opportunity we took, we didn't waste. We both got PBs. We ran tough. It was a tough race to run from the front, but we wanted to push the pace and make sure we came out with something that is a good starting point for where we are. So it was a great opportunity. I mean, 5Ks were very unknown to me at that point. I was used to running, miles and 1500s at quite a fast pace. To be able to mentally go through that process of a 5K was pretty important for me as well as an athlete, because I know Dathan's going to throw me in a lot more 5Ks later on, which I don't know how I feel about, but that's just inevitable. And I was happy to get away with that result in Los Angeles.
Are you a 1500 meter guy who's thinking about the 5,000? Are you a 5,000 meter guy who just loves the iconicness of the 1500?
Well, if you'd ask Mick Byrne, he'd say that in Premier League terms, I'm a utility player.
Okay.
I mean, I've been an All-American in cross country and an All-American in the 1500. So right now I have a good strength base. I have a good range, but my heart is definitely with the 1500 mile. I think there's something special about that race. Every time you get out there, it's an exciting experience. And there's just so much that can happen, especially tactically or how fast it can go. I think the 5K is definitely going to be in my future. And I'll definitely be running some 5Ks, and I think that will probably go under my banner. But right now, the 1500 is my love. I definitely enjoy it a lot. And the same with the mile. Like, the more races I can get with them, the better. I think I really enjoy racing them.
Did the pace of the 5,000 surprise you, or was it 12 and a half laps?
It surprised me a little bit. We were doing a bit of training for the 5K to kind of feel that pace. Mm-hmm. We had a pacer through for the mile, and I think that first mile felt pretty good. And I think it really hurt me probably in the last kilometer, just not being used to, I guess, being around that track at that pace. It felt tough. It felt strong, but I think finishing the race, I realized that it's just it's a thing that I had to learn mentally to be able to lock in. I know some great athletes in the 5K have talked about that importance of that last K to be very mentally switched on, very focused on where you are, what you're doing, what pace you're running. And for me, just being a bit naive to that, I think that was something that I definitely learned from LA, which was a fantastic experience. And it felt long. It felt long compared to the Tennessee race. So sure. It was definitely a different experience, but it was exciting to be able to put a time down and know where I am in that event and look forward to racing it again.
The 3:53 mile, did that surprise you?
No, it didn't surprise me as much. I think Dathan and I were trying to go for 3:50. We didn't know where we were going to be able to do it, with obviously a lot of races kind of not having their goals at that kind of standard. We were able to get a pacer in for me for the South Carolina meet. We're hoping that pacer could go through in about three minutes or 2:59 if possible, to try and rip that last lap. But he was only able to do 800 meters, so I was again alone for the last 2 laps, and it was interesting because I was kind of disappointed in that race. 3:53, it was a world lead, it was a PB. We were very excited, but I definitely felt like I had more, and Ritz definitely thought that too. So he pulled me aside, and we went for Ritz being as fit as he is. He took me for a cool down that was kind of quick, but we had a good discussion about where we are, and I was kind of frustrated that I wasn't able to get the opportunities of running in the Diamond Leagues or running overseas with some of the good talent that's coming out of there with the fast races. And Dathan kind of just said, you know what, we're in a good spot, we're in a good place. I think it's time to reassess and look forward to when that actual window opens up for the Olympic Games. Because I think for him, as Dathan knows, it's money in the bank, it's an investment. You want to make sure you're in the right spot at the right time. And I think for me, that was the one thing where I had to learn patience and to enjoy the process now that we're going through, where we're completely going through our full training with Dathan. So starting from the ground up.
In college, what was the strangest double or triple you ever did?
I think it has to go to the indoor nationals at 2019. Okay. The double that I did was the DMR, the mile, and the 3K or triple.
Wow.
That was tough. I was actually not very well beforehand. I was coming down with the flu, and at that point, Wisconsin had their eyes on them because Morgan and I were going to score these points to hopefully, win a national title. So when that was being talked about, I didn't want to let my college down. I didn't want to let Mick down. We did a lot of hard work for it. Results obviously came through, and I didn't do what I wanted to do, but I was able to come away with a lot of experience from it. I mean, the DMR, I think we finished about 6th. The mile, I finished 3rd, and then the 3K, I was at the back. And I think at that point I was about 9th with the K to go, and Morgan McDonald came through and won the race. And I was struggling at the back, completely drained. I think I had 2 weeks where I was just an absolute wreck. So that mentally was a challenge, I think, as well as physically. In college, I mean, as one of the athletes, as Morgan has gone through, and a lot of other athletes like Alicia too, when you're in a conference Big Ten meet, you usually are told you're going to double. And I've done the mile 3K double at Big Tens and won both. I've done the 5K double at Big Tens and won both. So I know what it's like to go through that system now. I think from learning from the national meet, it's just that mental progression and knowing your limit, knowing your body, being able to kind of respond to yourself, not just a couple of days before the meet, but a week before, to make sure that you're ready for it. Was an important thing to learn, because I know now as a professional athlete, you see us racing every week. So you don't really get too much of a break. You get a week to maybe build up to a race, and then you go back again. So depending on if it's a 1500 or 5K, it can affect your body in different ways. So that was a great skill to learn in college, was that doubling, that tripling, is that mental process, the mental preparation the week before, and the whole just physical challenge that it would be. So it was tough, but it was definitely a great learning curve for me, definitely going into racing more and being able to respond better to races.
What did you like about cross country in college?
The Nottingham course. I can't stress enough how much I love that course. It's Terre Haute, as I understand, is very prestigious, but nothing beats Nottingham. I think the way in which the course is maintained, its positioned, the history behind Wisconsin and cross country, I think was such a thing to get inspired by, even as a middle distance runner. to have the opportunity to run there and to race there as much as we did was fantastic. To have the national championships there when it snowed the day before and people were rocking up to that line, and you have, hundreds of kids out there with the big W flags. It was something that I'll never experience again, and it was something that I treasure. So cross country for me was, when I think of cross country, I think of Nutty, the course, and I think of how many workouts they've done there as a team, how excited Mick gets on that buggy driving around, keeping up with us. It's a lot of fun, and it always will be very, very treasured memories out of that course. And the races that I've had there have been fantastic. So I just hope that hopefully in the future that more national championships, more bigger races are able to go to that course, because I know it's very spectator friendly and people are able to watch the race and get excited about cross country, which is one of the things that I always encourage. So it's definitely got a big place in my heart in particular.
To make an Australian team, you have to hit a standard. Do you have to compete in their championships too?
At the moment, their positioning on the selection policy has changed due to COVID-19. So right now, I've been in talks with Athletics Australia, and they know everyone's situation right now in the world. They know that I've run the standard, which is not classified as counting with the frozen period. So the issue is ranking. I think ranking is very important. So right now for Australia, depending on if they're going to have Olympic trials, which was cancelled last year, is still being pending. But right now they want you to run as many races as you can, run the standard, so under 3:35, and rank as one of the top Australians in the world. So right now, Dathan and I, that's what we're looking at. We're looking at finding fast races, running under that standard again, and ranking as one of the top Australians in the world for that event. And then if the trials does take place, we'll definitely travel to Sydney or Brisbane or Melbourne, wherever it may lay, and try and win or get close to winning and solidify ourselves in that selection policy. But right now it's still being tweaked due to the COVID-19 and the traveling and the racing going on. So
do you see yourself competing through LA 2028?
Yes, but Ritz seems to think that I'll be a marathon runner by then, like him. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I've obviously with Deke and with Monaghetti and a lot of good Australian runners, marathon runners in particular, have come through Boulder, have trained in Boulder. So there has been a bit of history there, and Ritz has told me about that. So I think for me, definitely, obviously 2024 in Paris is going to be one of the biggest goals for me as a professional runner. And then 2028 in Los Angeles would be fantastic, especially with this group and with the trajectory that we want to bring. We want to make this group exciting. And if I end up running a 5K, 10K, or even a marathon, then that might happen. But hopefully I can still do a Nick Willis and stay around and keep around in the 1500. But I hope to keep my career as a longevity as possible and to stay healthy, to enjoy what I do. And that's one of the most important things. So I'd love to see myself there in Los Angeles.
Well, before you do a marathon, you'll probably have to run a 10,000. Have you ever run one on the track?
No, I haven't. The only 10,000 I've run is cross country in college. So Dathan's talked special things about the 10K, especially to Joe, who will probably be doing a 10K later in this year. And it's definitely a different beast to tackle. And I think if we've got a coach behind us who knows how to deal with that beast the best, it's Dathan Ritzenhein. So we're pretty confident with him and his experience, and I'm excited to what to say. I definitely am scared of the 10K in some respects as a 1500 meter runner, but Dathan seems to be confident. So if I do run a 10K in the future, I might run it at Zatopek in Australia or somewhere in Peyton Jordan or anywhere. So definitely on the cards. Yeah, Zatopek's
a fantastic one. The 10K on the roads, 10K cross country, you can recover from pretty quick. The 10 on the track is something. I mean, my college coach, he put me in the mile. He said I took 30. He goes, "Oh, I signed you up for the 10 too." So I just sat for 24 laps and said, "I hate this." And but it was a good way to have the first experience. And it's like the chess game. I mean, I equate the 10,000 with like the pole vault, and then it's just people don't appreciate the pole vault because they see the guys jumping for 10 seconds, but it's this 2.5 hour chess game, and I see
Yeah.
10,000 is, I like the 5. They're both amazing mental events as well as the physical thing too. Is there a workout that I asked everybody these final two questions? So you've survived for 35 minutes. So Olli, good job. Okay,
Thank you.
It hasn't been too painful, I hope. So you're down to 504. So here's our last two questions, pretty much, and I'll figure something else out to bother you with. But was there a workout that you did in college that told you were ready to roll?
Yes, there was. We did a workout that I think one of the coolest workouts, I would say. We did this K rep workout around the course. This was before the national championships. And at this point, it was very cold in Madison, so the ground was frozen.
Yeah.
We're running in flats, and Mick was in the buggy next to us. And I did about 9 to 10 Ks of work.
Yeah.
And it was all around 250s. So we were flying. So we were in great shape. And I looked at Morgan, and I realized at that point, like, this guy's going to win the national title. There's no way. Like, he looked fantastic, as he always does. And he looked at me, and he knew that we were both going to have great races. And it was just an exciting kind of event because we're looking at each other thinking that, and then Mick Byrne pulls in his little buggy and says, "All right, you chaps are ready to race." And then he just drove off. So that was probably one of the workouts in college where I thought, I'm in great shape.
Was there a workout you absolutely despised but knew you need to do?
Yeah, there was. There's a workout around this place called the Bayfields in Madison, and I remember as a freshman to sophomore to senior, anytime we did a lot of tempo threshold work, longer work on that around that thick, tough terrain it mentally always knocked me around. So that was one of the workouts I despised, but I knew it was a workout that made me stronger. It wouldn't be too tough of a workout. I think it's just that whole place and that whole mental mindset for me was always more tough than maybe for others. So that was a hard workout.
Do you have an inspirational quote that when you're having a shitty day, you think about?
Yes, I have a quote, and I got it from Andrew Weeding, actually, and it was kill them with success, bury them with a smile. So that was a great quote that he told me. I think sometimes, a lot of races that I had in college were sometimes things didn't go my way tactically, or I just wasn't in the right place at the right time, and it didn't work out my way. And walking away, you get the media to come over and talk about, why'd you not do this? Why'd you not do that? I think when I'm about to prepare myself for that, I think, kill them with success, bury them with a smile. So I always try to put my best self out there and enjoy the experience, enjoy learning, enjoy failure, because at one day, all that knowledge that you get from it will eventually pay off and bring some success in the long run if you keep optimistic about it. So that's a quote that I really enjoy practicing in my head.
Cool. Well, Olli Hoare, you did a great job. You survived your RunBlogRun interview. And
thank you very much.
There will be a few more, and I hope to see you at the race, at Peyton next spring or somewhere else, and maybe even Zatopek. I promised Rob years ago that I would come down and see that. He spoke very eloquently about the importance of that event, and I would like to do that. But we're going to end this one today, and this is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. We're on Socialing the Distance, and we're featuring Olli Hoare, and he's the new OAC member on Athletic Club, being coached by Dathan Ritzenhein, and he is a Badger and an NCAA champion. So we liked him from the beginning, but now we respect him even more. So, Olli, thank you very much. Did a great job.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
And we'll see you in the springtime, okay? Cheers.
See you in the springtime.
Hey, sports fans, guess what? It's me again, Larry Eder. RunBlogRun. Socialing the Distance is the program. Sometimes I like to call it socializing, but it's really socialing the distance. That's what Mike Deering told me to say. And we interviewed Olli Hoare today, and this is the epilogue. What a nice guy. In the tradition of all the Australians that I've known, and I've known some rather eccentric ones. I worked for one, Derek Clayton. He was kind of English via Irish via Australian. So he was a total whack job. And then I met the charmers, like Rob DiCostella, Rick Mitchell, Mick Hillert, Pat Colhesi, Dick Telford. Just great group. Always. What I liked about Australians, what I like about New Zealanders, is they love life. They've got a great sense of humor. They know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. And I think Ollie's in that same framework. He won his first outdoor NCAA title with a 53-second last lap, running just about 3:44. And he beat some pretty solid people. He was coached by the iconic Mick Byrne, the coach at University of Wisconsin for the Badgers. Mick is just one of those amazing coaches. Was at Iona College before that. I met him back in 2011, and my guess is he was coaching at Iona when I was at Santa Clara back in the late 70s and early 80s. But he's a class act, and Ollie is too. Ollie is now the 8th athlete we've interviewed from the OAC on Athletic Club, the new elite club sponsored by On Running and the dream of Andrew Weeding and Steve Coker. And they brought in Dathan Ritzenhein as the coach. Dathan is a fantastic coach. He's a man who's run 12:56 for the 5,000 meters and a 2:07:49 marathon, and in between a 27:23:10 and just about 60-minute half on a course that was pretty impressive on. He's also a fine high school athlete and college athlete, so he gets it. And Ritzenheim having been coached by some really good coaches, some really fine coaches. His attention to detail is second to none. And that will give athletes like Ollie and Carlos Villarreal and some of the others really positive reinforcement. What can Ollie do? Well, he wants to be a 1,500 guy and get down to that big 3:30. Heck, he may even run faster than that. He's got it there. He ran a 3:34:65 running the last 700 meters by himself. He ran his 3:53 mile the same way and ran his 13:28 5,000 pretty much the last 2 miles with Joe Klecker and him just counting off the laps. Guy's got wheels. Guy's got the ability to really improve. He's been with Mick Byrne. Now he's going to be with Dathan Ritzenhein. And I think you just see some great stuff out of him. I asked him if he could represent Australia till 2028. He said yes. He said it could be longer than that. And, he could also try a marathon. I teased him a little bit about the 10,000 meters. Wanted to see if he would take the bait. And he said it scares him a little bit, which is fine. Respect the distance. Respect the races. Respect all races. His agent is Ray Flynn, the fine Irish runner and Irish agent. Met Ray back in 1979 or 80 at the Runners World Classic indoor meet, where he ran about a 3:55 mile. Got to hold his sweats and do a cool down with him. And years later, when I told him that, he looked at me terrified and he goes, "Was I nice to you?" I don't think you have any other place but to be nice, Ray. So anyway, Ray's one of my favorite agents, and he's just a good guy. And it's nice to see him taking on some new athletes too. Ollie's a good kid, and I think you'll see some fast times out of him. And Ollie also aspires to athletes like Nick Willis. We're going to get Nick on soon. Nick's one of my favorite athletes. I've watched him since 2005, I believe, is when I met him in Helsinki. But I've digressed. This was about Olli Hoare, and Ollie's a fine runner, came up through the college ranks, started out as a swimmer in Australia, got into distance running at about 16. His dad ran, but never really pushed him into it. This was Ollie's decision. In ultra-competitive Australia, I remember the late Ron Clark telling me that sports fans over there didn't understand anything but first. So at the level of competition and respect for competition is pretty high. And Ollie, I think, looks forward to that. So next spring, we hope to see Olli Hoare and the rest of the OAC at some track meets where we can we have to be socially distanced, we will. So we'll wave, we'll text. But 8 athletes in the OAC have survived my interviews, so they can't be that scary. And they are 40 minutes, and I do ask some strange questions, but that's life. Get used to it. You can, maybe we'll do a shirt that says I've survived socialing the distance. That could be a big crowd pleaser. So, this was the 8th interview of an OAC athlete, and then we interviewed Dathan too. What can I tell you? I think On Running is putting together a pretty ambitious program. The first big elite club that I remember, besides Pacific Coast, that Adidas did was the Athletics West Club that Nike did with some success, some good success, some controversy. There's been some wonderful clubs since then, Hanson, Brooks, Zap, and Mammoth Track Club. We've got some good ones out there. Americans like to train in groups, and so do some athletes from other nations. So I think this will be good. Dathan's going to be, I think, perfect for this, and I think athletes like Olli and Joe Clucker and Leah, and I think some of the other athletes will really, really enjoy the OAC. So we look forward to seeing how they do next spring, how they do this winter, how they do in the fall. Thank you for viewing Socialing the Distance. This is Larry Eder with RunBlogRun. We featured Olli Hoare and with the OAC, and his coach is Dathan Ritzenhein. Have a great afternoon. Oh, do me a favor. If you like us, sign up for our social media. Like us on social media. As Sally Field said, you like us, you really like us. If you really like us, if you love us, subscribe to YouTube. We get paid for eyeballs, okay? So, not cutting them out, just you guys watching stuff. So, subscribe to YouTube. Like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And tell your friends to do the same. Larry Eder, RunBlogRun. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.